Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial we are going to be making this really cool neon leopard peekaboo using TeckWrapcraft rainbow vinyl and a cheat glitter. Brooke over at Cami Page Boutique made a beautiful mama leopard tumbler, and she actually has a tutorial on that, but I did purchase the cup from her because I loved it so much, and that was my inspiration for this tumbler. When I finally decided on this design, I think I purchased a one-way ticket to the struggle bus because there were so many things that went wrong with this, but I didn't want to give up on it because I knew that this would be a beautiful tumbler in the end. We are starting off with a 32 plump from the Still Magnolia. It is a straight tumbler with no taper, and I have this beautiful neon rainbow vinyl from TeckWrapcraft. Over the course of the last few months, they have become my absolute favorite vinyl supplier. All of their vinyl that I use is permanent, so it can be used on simple projects that you don't have to seal in with epoxy. So technically you could wrap this tumbler with this beautiful rainbow vinyl and then leave it as is. It wouldn't require any kind of epoxy on top of it to seal it in since it is permanent, and all of their vinyl is such high quality. I would really feel comfortable giving that to my customer if they chose not to have epoxy and just decorate a tumbler with vinyl designs. If you have watched any of my pattern vinyl tutorials in the past, I use all of the gracefully created pattern vinyls, and most of the time I trim them exact to size on my tumbler so it's an easy wrap. But I know lots of you do that differently, so I wanted to show you how to wrap a tumbler a different way and trim off your top and bottom rims properly. So just for this, I just trimmed off a rough estimate of how much vinyl I would need, making sure I went in excess of the size of the tumbler. And thank goodness we're putting glitter over this, because here was my first mistake. I cut on the wrong side of the seam. Don't do that. Make sure you cut on the other side where the vinyl is overlapping. And there was where I realized it, and I just flipped it around and started cutting down the seam on the other side. Now, since we are putting glitter over top of this, I am not concerned that, one, I cut on the totally wrong side, that my line is slightly crooked because we are doing a peekaboo, or that the little slither of vinyl in between or under that overlap is still in there. It doesn't matter. We're covering up with glitter and we're not going to be able to see that. If you want to see how I wrap a tumbler with printable vinyl and get a perfect seam, go back in my videos and check out one of my other tutorials. I pulled the vinyl tightly around the bottom of the tumbler, trimmed off a little bit of excess so it wasn't so bulky, and then I took my vinyl trimmer from Cami Page Boutique and just spun my tumbler around to get a perfect edge. If y'all don't have one of these, I highly suggest it. I will link it down below for y'all, along with her shop, so you can check out all of the other amazing products she has, along with a coupon code for y'all. Now, I just repeated the same steps on the top rim, and then I am taking my glitter glue from ARTISTRY EPOXY, and we are going to evenly spread that around the tumbler with a makeup brush. I did not paint the bottom of this tumbler, simply for the fact that I do not plan on doing a peekaboo on the end. I just don't like taking my designs, or if I'm doing a peekaboo, over the rims of the tumbler. I feel like if you bring it down just a hair, it really gives a nice clean look to your designs. Once I had my glitter glue nice and even, I went in with CANDLEABRA from PDB Creative Studio. This is an opal glitter, but it has a rainbow shift, and I mean, of course that's going to be perfect for a neon rainbow tumbler. It's seriously the most perfect glitter for all of those bright summer designs. Just sprinkle that all over the tumbler nice and even, and then I allowed this to dry for about 2 hours. I spray sealed with Rust-Oleum matte clear coat and gave 2 layers of Artistry's epoxy. Now we're going to slow things down just a bit and I will show you how I created the wrap for the tumbler. The Boss Babe image will be available for free in the Brittany Barnes Boutique group. I created that myself just to go along with the design. And the leopard print is from Creative Fabrica. If you don't already have a Creative Fabrica subscription, it is okay. You can grab this for a regular price, or if you would like to sign up for Creative Fabrica, they have graciously given me a link for my followers and subscribers that you can sign up for just $1 for your first month with no obligation, and you can download anything you want on their website for free. And I will drop that link down below for y'all. So for Boss Babe, we put that at 7.5 inches, and then I just made my leopard spots 11.5 by 11.5. I highlighted Boss Babe and created a 0.035 offset, highlighted them once again, and then clicked slice so I can get my nice little outline. I removed the duplicate solid, and then we are going to go in and create our border. So I added in a square shape, unlocked the dimensions, and then I'm just pulling it to the size that I want to go around my Boss Babe image, and that was roughly 3 inches wide. I highlighted that again, created another offset. Make sure that you change your corner from the curved to the pointed corner, and I set that offset to 0.20. We are then going to create our border for both of those with 0.035 once again. Now once I had a offset of the smaller rectangle, I did pull the back one out from behind there and then sliced the image that was left so that I got that little border. I removed the duplicate image once again and then went back to the larger of the rectangles and repeated my same steps. Once I had finished both of those, I then took the smaller rectangle, placed that on top of the larger, and then I highlighted them both, went up top to where it says align, and aligned them horizontally and vertically to center them perfect. Then I went down to slice and selected that so I can get my border. Now, prior to doing that, I could have duplicated the larger rectangle, but I forgot to do that, so I'm just going to duplicate this border here, head over to Contour, that is in the bottom right-hand corner, and click on the center of that rectangle, close out of that screen, and that is going to give me my solid rectangle again. I moved that solid rectangle over to the center of my leopard, removed that smaller one, highlighted the leopard and rectangle, aligned them horizontally and vertically, and then selected slice. I removed those pieces that we no longer needed, moved my outline over to the center of the leopard. I pulled over the solid Boss Babe, selected all of those, and then I centered horizontally and vertically once again, and then went down to the bottom right and attached them so they would all cut together. I did the same with all 3 of my offsets, so it would be super easy to just apply them all together at once and then cut. I used a temporary vinyl for the large image, and then for my offset I used a beautiful holographic, also from TeckWrapcraft. You will see that again here shortly. And I apologize, I do not have the footage from where I created the offset on the full 11.5 sheet. I did pull that leopard file back into my Cricut program. I removed those 2 extra layers just as I did in the beginning, created a 0.035 offset, and then cut the offset also on the holographic paper so we can do small offsets on some of our leopard print. Now I have weeded out all of the negative space from my stencil and placed some transfer tape on top. This is not my favorite transfer tape. I realized that I was completely out and had to go to Hobby Lobby and grab some of this Paper Studio transfer tape, and it does not work as well as the ones that you have saw me use in my prior tutorials. So again, this is not my favorite one. I will, however, link my favorite transfer tape down below in the description. I used the hinge method to make sure that this was lined up straight on the tumbler, pressed that little slither of exposed transfer tape down, and then removed the rest of the backing, pretty much just rolled my tumbler onto the stencil. Once I got to the part where the seam would be, I just pressed down all of those little pieces of leopard print and then cut off the portion that would overlap. And then I just went back in and put those on individually so it would look seamless. Now, like I said, I struggled on this cup and I really should have thought smarter instead of work harder on this one, because I could have trimmed around that the Boss Babe that is on the front. I could have trimmed that out, applied that first, and then just went in sections with my leopard print. I didn't do that. I do so many wraps. I think my mind was just set on attempting to apply all at once like a wrap. So if you do this design, make it easier on yourself. Trim that baby out and put it on in sections. I removed all of the spots that were overlapping my edges and pulled them up just slightly, or replaced them with smaller spots so that they would not overlap the edges. And watching this from your point of view, you have probably already noticed my major mistake. As I said in the beginning, I was not concerned about the seam because it was not going to be shown in our Peekaboo. And here is the exact moment that I realized I put my main decal straight through it. Y'all, I was so mad at that point. I just flipped the tumbler away and left it for the rest of the day. I come back with a fresh mind, cut my vinyl once again, removed everything from my tumbler, and then made sure that I did not put my main decal over the seam. And I just sort of placed my leopard spots. I removed anything that was overlapping that seam and placed them up to it, but not over it, so you wouldn't even be able to see that once we do our Peekaboo. Now this is the holographic vinyl that I was telling you about earlier. I wanted to show you how easy it is to weed even with that tiny 0.035 offset. I didn't lose a single offset, which is incredible for holographic vinyl. If you've used it before, you know how difficult it is to work with, so this is incredible. This is a opal holographic. However, once you put it under epoxy, it will be glossy. If you use it on one of those like plastic coffee tumblers, then of course it will keep its opal finish, and you can use it that way without sealing it as well, since it is a permanent vinyl. I did 2 very light coats of black spray paint over top of my stencils, and the spray paint that I used was glossy, so once that dried, I went over with a coat of Rust-Oleum matte clear so that we have a matte finish. And while I am handling and rolling this around, if anything sort of sticks to the cup, it is easy to brush that off and get it nice and clean before we apply our epoxy. I removed all of my stencils, and now it is time to add on our offsets. Since a lot of you have suggested it in the past, I wanted to test out the parchment paper trick so I can see through this and attempt to add this very large offset at one time. So I pulled up my offset with the transfer tape and just placed that on a sheet of parchment paper. I trimmed off the excess, and for whatever reason, I trimmed off the wrong end. So don't pay attention to me trimming off that bottom left side of the transfer tape. I needed to do it on top so that I could roll it around the tumbler. So here I'm going back and trimming off that little top piece so that I can expose the transfer tape. I placed the parchment paper and my decal over the Boss Babe and just lined that up perfectly, pressed down the transfer tape that was exposed at the top, removed the parchment paper, and just pressed the decal down. And it was perfect. So thank you for everyone that has suggested this in the past. I will now forever have a roll of parchment paper in my craft room and use it all the time. Since we are working with a really thin offset, make sure you take the time to press that down really well and then very slowly remove your transfer tape to make sure that you're not going to pull it up in any areas. Now, if I did not have to replace my Boss Babe decal for overlapping that seam, my vinyl would have lined up perfectly with the sheet of offsets. But because I didn't do that and I had that error, I just replaced the Boss Babe, and not thinking, my leopard print did not line up with my offsets at that point. So I pretty much just had to put the puzzle pieces together, and it took me a very, very long time to find all of the the coordinating or the matching offsets and place them on this cup. So you'll only see me throw a few of these on here because I'm pretty sure I spent over an hour searching for them on the sheet to place them on my tumbler. And I didn't place them in any special areas. I just randomly placed them around, pretty much the ones that I could find. And I didn't want to do all of them anyway. So I did leave, I would say, half of them without an offset and half of them with. This is a permanent vinyl and it adheres really well even with these very thin offsets, so I did not have to seal. I just went straight in with my final layers of epoxy. Now this is Artistry's 1:1 ratio fast set, and in my previous video I showed you how to mix it crystal clear and how to get it correctly mixed. In this tutorial I wanted to show you what it looked like when you mix it super fast, which is normally how I mix because I'm impatient, just so I can show you how easy it is to remove any of those micro bubbles that may be created by fast mixing. You can almost see that it looks like lathered soap in my measuring cup, and then once I apply it to my tumbler, you can already see those bubbles rising to the top. So all I did was take my torch, I will list it down below for y'all if you don't have one on hand, and lightly brush over this tumbler. It popped every single micro bubble super fast and left me with a crystal clear and beautiful shine epoxy. I applied my second layer of fast set at the 45-minute mark, and then roughly 3 hours later I was able to pull that off the turner and take some pictures and a video for y'all. This tumbler, although it was stressful, was so much fun to make. I absolutely love the bright neon colors, and I think it's awesome that I did not have to place those glitters on there individually. I just used that beautiful TeckWrapcraft Vinyl and placed the opal glitter on top. I hope that y'all enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, just drop them down below for me in the comments. All of the products that I used in this tutorial will be down in the description below, along with some coupon codes. Don't forget, the Boss Babe file will be available for free in the Brittany Barnes Boutique Facebook group. Just hit that join button down below in the description and you will be able to find that file in the Dropbox pinned at the top of the group. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell in the corner to be notified anytime a new tutorial drops. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.